Hello and welcome, Angelinos. We thank you for tuning in to yet another brilliant episode of the Galaxy Guy podcast, hosted by Chris Maldonado, a show made by loyal Galaxy fans for loyal Galaxy fans who bleed blue, white and gold. So join us as we talk about the ins and outs, as well as the ups and downs of your favorite team, the one...
Hola y bienvenidos, Angelinos. Welcome back, Galaxy fans, to the Galaxy Guy Show. You guys know the rest. I'm your host, Chris Maldonado. Y como siempre, we are always here to talk about your favorite club, our favorite club, the LA Galaxy. And tonight, we have a very, very special playoff show. That's right. We will be talking about absolutely everything that you will need to know about the LA Galaxy's playoff outlook, as the LA Galaxy, you know, is entering the final 8 games of the season. That's right, 8 games left for the LA Galaxy as they make their final push into those playoffs. Listen, folks, we're not going to sugarcoat a lot of things, and we did enough deep diving for this one to make Jacques Cousteau a little bit jealous. So you'll definitely want to get comfy, strap yourselves in for some deep stats, comprehensive breakdown of each of the remaining matches, just an overall realistic playoff scenario for the LA Galaxy, where exactly they might end up on decision day. It's going to be a wild one. And in order to help me do that tonight, I have with me my co-hosts, some guests, someone you will already know. We'll start with him, the stat man himself, Casey Cagle. How are you, Casey? How are you doing tonight?
Feeling good, man. Galaxy win on a Sunday, and Salernitana got their biggest Serie A win on Sunday as well, beating Sampdoria 4-0. So that was a good weekend football-wise for me.
It's good, man. Hey, Casey always coming in with those obscure soccer teams that he follows in Europe. Well, that's good, man. Great having you on. I share the sentiment. Always good to come and talk about the Galaxy after a Galaxy win. We're going to ride that wave high. But good having you on. With us tonight, also joining us, we have a special guest, a fellow Redditor. He's been on the LA Galaxy subreddit with us for a while, and a fellow Galaxy podcaster. Some of you guys might already know him. He's been creating some Galaxy content as well. His name is Christian Rosas. Hey, Chris, how are you?
I'm doing good. Thanks for having me. And just like Casey said, he follows the Serie A, but the Sounders also lost, and I think they're a bigger threat to us than Timbers. So that's always good. And the Galaxy won. So, I mean, it's a great weekend. And whenever the Galaxy win on a Sunday, it's typically a great week. So that's typically how it goes.
A lot of teams that I really dislike lost this week, and that's good news for us. We won't talk about the other team that wears black and gold, but it's good to see them losing a couple of games in a row, right?
Yeah.
But Chris, it's a pleasure having you on with us tonight. I do have to say that the best people that I know are named Chris. Isn't that kind of weird?
It's funny. Yeah.
It's a little bit weird, but it's true. Facts.
Chris Klein.
I love that guy. Look at that. There we go. That is a great shirt. Casey made a limited run of those shirts. It's great seeing that, man. But all right, listen, before we kick it off here, we have to start before we kick it off into the playoff talk, which is, the meat of this sandwich. Let me ask you all, and by you all, I mean not only my co-host tonight, obviously, but also the audience that is listening to this, maybe watching this right now. I would love to hear your answers in the comments section below. The question is, guys, and we'll start off with you, Chris. You're our guest. The question is, are you satisfied with where the LA Galaxy is currently sitting in the standings? And are you surprised, disappointed, perhaps a little bit of something else? What do you think?
So I don't think, to be honest with you, I don't think anybody's really going to be satisfied where they are at the standings. They're 7th, right? Talking about a club with 5 championships, sitting 7th seed. Never good, but I definitely am surprised, especially after the last couple results. You go up 2 against Seattle. You also go up 2 on the road against New England, against a Bruce Arena team. So Surprised that they blew the game against Seattle. Also surprised that they actually got the W last game. So surprised, yes. Satisfied, definitely not. No, I believe that this team deserves to be higher in the standings for sure.
Right on. I think a lot of people would agree with that. What about you, Casey? What do you think? Are you satisfied? Are you surprised, or did you sort of expect this?
Satisfied, definitely not. Surprised, not really. We've been caught in this same cycle the last couple of seasons where the West is super tight, and come, late August, early September, we find ourselves right on the line. And it's looking like it's going to be another decision for us to get into the playoffs. And like Christian said, dropping that those 2 points to Seattle at home was kind of a major blow, to a lot of the fans' morale. But coming back and beating New England 2-0 yesterday was a nice, refreshing feeling. But again, the points don't lie, and it's so tight in the West, and we've been squeezed out the last 2-3 seasons come decision day. So it's looking like it's going to be a really tight race to be part of the playoff run. And I just hope we can get all the points we can.
Tight race indeed. I mean, I can't remember in the last couple of seasons the Western Conference being this tight as it has been this season. I mean, it's usually pretty tight, but we're talking about, 7th place and 11th place being within a point or two apart from each other. It's going to really, I think that maybe 4th place down to 7th will come down to decision day. Those will be decided on decision day. Yeah, Chris.
And really quick, sorry, Chris, really quick, kind of to piggyback off what you guys were saying. A lot of people forget that Nashville was actually in the Eastern Conference last year. So it's only going to get tighter as they got added to the Western Conference. So one more team to worry about. And of course they're in the playoff race as well. So it just makes it worse.
Absolutely. That's a great point. And Nashville, and we'll talk about this later on when we cover, break down match by match, but Nashville is they're very similar to the LA Galaxy this season, right? Because they're a competitive playoff team, but they've been up and down, up and down, up and down, just like the Galaxy. So, we'll talk about that. And frankly, like I said, I want to know what the Galaxy fans out there are thinking. Are they satisfied? Where do they see this team ending up at the end of that decision day game against Houston, right? We're not going to beat around the bush. We're going to get into the meat of this sandwich. The LA Galaxy's playoff picture. We're going to frame it for them. Now, the way we're going to do this tonight is Casey here has worked out a lot of stats. He took the Western Conference and he kind of broke it down. You know what, Casey, I'll let you explain it, right?
Absolutely. Yeah. Let me, I'm going to pull up my notepad here so everybody can see the physical numbers that I took a look at today. So basically what I did is I looked at every Western Conference team and their remaining fixtures in the 2022 season. Then I looked at every opponent in those remaining games, looked at the last 5 results against that opponent, and added a points tally accordingly. So you would get 3 points for a win, 1 point for a draw, 0 points for a loss. So as you can see here, LAFC has 7 remaining games. These are the last 5 results against those opponents. If there's a small sample size, like say, for example, Nashville, that they've only played against once, you'll see those results accordingly. So I added up those points tallies, and then I divided those tallies by the possible points in all of those matches. So, for example, you see Seattle accrued 57 points out of a possible 87 points, giving them a 65% point accrual rating against those remaining opponents. And I multiplied that percentage by the remaining available points in the regular season, giving you a projected points count for their upcoming remaining matches of the 2022 season. So as you can see here, Seattle accrued 57 out of a possible 87 points against their next opponents the remainder of the season, with a 65% point accrual percentage, bringing them to a projection of about 13, 14 points for the remainder of the season.
Which would qualify them for playoffs, right?
Yes, and that's the next step here. So I took these points, projected points, and added them to the regular season table. And this is what the projected this is the projected Western Conference table at the end of the season. So as you can see, if LAFC obtain the 13 points that I calculated them to obtain over their next 7 matches, they should reach 70 points, falling 3 points shy of New England's record set in 2021. As you can see, the Galaxy, we're currently at 37 points in the standings, are on track to obtain 9 points out of the next 8 games, putting us at 46 points total of the season, dropping us down to 9th, 2 places below the playoff line.
You just broke a lot of hearts right now, Casey.
And as you can see, if we look at the Galaxy's next 8 opponents, where do we go? We are...
Now, folks, I really hope that you guys are not only listening to this, but Casey's actually showing this on the screen right now. He worked out all the numbers. He has it tallied up on a chart. So you definitely want to pay attention to this right now. Take a look. Break down the Galaxy's outlook for us, Casey.
So we've got Toronto up next. We've lost to them twice, drew with them once, won twice in the last 5 matches. The remaining opponents, Sporting Kansas City, Nashville, Vancouver, Colorado, San Jose, RSL, and Houston. We don't necessarily have the highest winning record against all of those opponents. The only exception being really Nashville, but that sample size is so small, it's hard to really make a determination from that specific metric. But as you can see, with those point tallies, the Galaxy only obtained 38% of possible 108 points out of all of those former matchups against upcoming opponents, putting us at a projected tally of 9 points the rest of the season.
Now, the Galaxy is sitting at 37 points, right?
37.
Okay. And as we've discussed this before, we need 48 points, right? That's like the magic number to qualify for playoffs. 9 points does not give us 48. That leaves us shy. Wow,
leaves us 2 points shy of 48 points.
Dang.
It's funny looking at these projections because it's pretty accurate. I mean, the Galaxy, let's just say, according to these projections, they get the 9 points. They only have 3 home games left. So assuming they lose all the road games, this is pretty accurate.
There's some very difficult home games there for the Galaxy. I mean,
and they are, yes. Mm-hmm.
So, Casey, I'll let you finish this, but after this, we're going to go game by game and break it down exactly why it is that we believe we're going to get to these points or not, or miss out on these points, right? Casey, anything else you'd like to add on to that?
I mean, that's basically it. It's kind of an easy schedule for Seattle moving forward. And Portland, who could easily, leapfrog us in the standings, and it's not looking good based on these numbers.
I mean, we always kind of knew that it would be like this, and we knew that it would be tight at the end, right? And as Matt explained last show, the Galaxy hasn't done well when the schedule is condensed, right? Mm-hmm. Now, look, the Galaxy has now played 26 of their total 34 games, right? 34 games in the season. They have now played 26 of those 34, meaning that there are only 8 games remaining for the Galaxy, like Casey just explained, right? As of this last Sunday, the LA Galaxy winning on the road versus New England, the Galaxy is now currently sitting in 7th. 7th, of course, is the final playoff berth in the Western Conference. As the listeners have heard us talk about before, they heard us talk about it now. In Major League Soccer, the magic number of points that just about guarantee that you qualify for the playoffs is 48 points. Now, keep in mind those 48 because the Galaxy is currently sitting at 37, like we just said, meaning that they need to earn those 11 points in the final 8 games to punch that ticket to the playoffs. So what do you guys say that now we break down those final 8 games? We talk about them one by one. What do you guys say we do that now?
Do it.
Sounds good.
Great. 8 games mean a total of 24 points that are still out there for the LA Galaxy to earn. But just as we said, the bare minimum of that will be 11 points for the Galaxy to earn. So let's go one by one, talk about that, starting, of course, with this upcoming Wednesday's game against Bob Bradley's TFC. Chris, let me ask you first, brother. How do you see us stacking up against this Toronto team on Wednesday?
Well, if you're talking on paper, not very good. I mean, in the standings, I believe, forgive me, I'm not sure what seed they are. They're below the playoff line as well. They're looking to push into a playoff spot, but in the summer they got Lorenzo Insigne and Bernadeschi as well, and that's already adding to Jonathan Osorio and some of the young players they already have with a new coach in Bob Bradley, who's he didn't start off well, but he got his pieces and they're winning. So, I mean, listen, just because they're below the playoff line, it doesn't mean anything because this team is for real. And I'd be shocked to see if we get some points out of that in Toronto. But that's just my personal opinion.
No, I mean, you're not too far off from that, Chris, because like you said, they are below the playoff line currently, but I'm looking at the standings right now. They're in 10th place, 33 points in the Eastern Conference. A win and some results around the Eastern Conference could get them into 7th place, if I'm not mistaken here. They would probably have to outscore the Galaxy by a lot, but it is possible. With a win and some results and a high score line, Toronto could earn themselves a playoff spot this upcoming week. So I totally expect them to come out there and play like a playoff spot is on the line for them, right?
Exactly. Yes. And you said it. You said they'd have to score a lot, essentially for them to get above the playoff line. And that's not unheard of with the back line, right? We don't know what formation we're going to see from the Galaxy. It could be 5 people, just like the last game. It could be 4. It could even be 3. So, I mean, scoring on the Galaxy is very possible.
I mean, listen, TFC, let's talk about teams that get hot in the summer, right? Because that's usually in the summer when teams have gone out, they've purchased the players that they're going to make the final push with, game changers. It's summer. The team has been playing all season together. They're either gelling or they're not. Any mistakes, any flaws in the team, they've been kind of cranked out, right? So the summer is really when we start looking at teams in their final form, right? Now, with TFC, in their last 8 games, they've brought in, since those 8 games, they've brought in Insigne and Bernadeschi, right, from Juventus. And out of those 8 games, since those guys have joined, they have won 4 of those 8. They've tied 3, and they've only lost 1 game, which was on the road against Miami, 2-1. In those 8 games, Toronto have scored 17 total goals and have allowed only 9 goals. So that's a little bit over 1 goal per game. They're a very serious team. They started off the season, bit of a slump, but as they're making this final push, they've made their big summer acquisitions. These guys are hot right now. Toronto is a hot team. Out of those 17 goals scored, Bernadeschi has scored 5. He's assisted on 2. Insigne has scored 4, and he has assisted on 2, right? Their DPs are hot. This is a hot team. Casey, please tell us that we're wrong. Please tell us that the Galaxy has the possibility of getting 3 points on the road.
Well, as you guys said, it's a midweek game. Travel's going to be, they're traveling from New England, which isn't the farthest from Toronto, but it's still travel. It still takes its toll. And like you said, Chris, I mean, they've been so hot since signing Insigne and Bernadeschi. It's going to it's going to be interesting considering the tinkering that's been going on in the back line. Like Christian said, whether it's 5 at the back, 4 at the back, or 3 at the back, either way, I don't have very much confidence in this back line not getting scored on. So I think, it's really just going to come down to how the pieces fit, and it's going to depend on a couple of pretty brilliant individual performances. I'm looking at Puig, I'm looking at Chicharito, I'm looking at Jovelic coming off the bench, I'm looking at Aguirre again, who had a great game on Sunday, in place of Marky Delgado. So it's really going to be down to some individual performances there.
Yeah, I think that this game is going to be either won or lost by the LA Galaxy defense.
100%.
Yeah.
Right.
Because as we've seen, I mean, look, the last 20 minutes of every game, it just seems like something switches off, the right substitution isn't made, and everything seems to fall apart. We get scored on a lot in the last 20 minutes of matches, and it could all come tumbling down on us, even with a 1 or 2 goal lead.
Yeah.
Yep. And one thing I forgot to mention that Casey did mention is it is a midweek game. So for anybody looking for some optimism or some positive things, weird things do happen on these midweek games. So I guess if you're looking for a positive, that would be it. So
I mean, it could be a trap game for Toronto, right?
Yeah, exactly. That's what I'm saying.
Toronto could be, just licking it up right now, just saying like this, we have this game in the bag, the Galaxy's going to come here, we're going to eat them up. Who knows? Anything can happen, especially with this Galaxy team, right? So unpredictable. Yeah. But I think the consensus would be, not even only just among us, but I think most people would agree, this is going to be an extremely tough game for the Galaxy. And it's not impossible for the Galaxy to get a result, but it's very improbable. So I'd say it would probably be fair to say that best the Galaxy could hope for is a draw, but chances are the Galaxy is going to maybe kind of hit the wall here on this one, right? So sorry to break that down for some of you guys. Maybe some of you guys are a little bit more optimistic, but stats are there, Toronto's kind of hot right now. So we go from that Toronto game to our following game, which is next weekend against Sporting Kansas City. Right now, Kansas City is one of those weird ass teams the Galaxy plays against. It doesn't matter what form they're in. They always seem to play their best soccer against the Galaxy. Casey, where do you see the Galaxy? How do you see the Galaxy stacking up against this Sporting Kansas City team?
Well, it's going to be, it's going to be a home game. But again, after more travel from the East Coast. So we'll see what kind of squad rotation Greg has up his sleeve. We do have 4 losses and just 1 win against Kansas City in the last 5 meetings. And they're hot to trot at the moment. They're really vying for a potential playoff spot. It may seem a little out of reach, but with this Western Conference, who knows? Peter Vermees is always able to rally, the right guys to do their job. They're always dangerous pieces in Shallowy and Johnny Russell. So, it's like I said, it's going to come down to us being able to close out games and being able to get a lead early on.
I mean, Kansas City has had a very uncharacteristic, sorry, I butchered that word. It's very uncharacteristic of them to start the season like they did, because they've had a very crappy start to their season. This is a Sporting Kansas City team that is always a playoff contender, and they're always vying for one of the top spots in the Western Conference, at least in recent years, right? But the start of the season was bad for them. They registered only a few wins during the first 2/3 of the season. They've been out of a playoff spot, I believe, the entire season. It does, however, seem like they are turning things around over there in Kansas City. Vermees is an old dog. He's been with the team for such a long time. He's a veteran of this, right? He understands how MLS works. It seems like they're turning things for the better. It seems like the turning point for them was that failure at US Open Cup when they bounced out. They got bounced out by Sacramento Republic. Since that loss, they've won 3 crucial games. They've lost 2. One of those wins was the 4-2 win against the Galaxy. So let's not forget that. SKC's already beat us this season, and it was kind of a thumping that they gave us, right? It's just a few weeks ago. And, SKC has picked up steam since then. and they narrowly lost against Austin just 2 weeks ago. And that's one of the only losses that they've had. I think both losses were against Austin. And they're competitive. Christian, how do you feel about this, man? How do you feel about the Galaxy against Kansas City? That's going to be a home game, by the way.
Yeah, you can hear me, right?
Yeah.
Okay, sorry about that. Yeah, I think that is a positive. Of course, it's going to be a home game. It's going to be the home team's going to be rocking, right? But I mean, Casey said it. Last 5 games, 4 losses against this Sporting KC team, and it doesn't matter who they have on. You said that they got a slow start. They're missing their big piece, Alan Pulido, and
that's true.
Just like Toronto, they got a couple summer signings, and I believe it's Eric Tommy and William Agata, who, by the way, I think he had a brace against the Galaxy in that 4-2 game. So, I mean, just like Toronto, they got a couple pieces and they're starting to score goals. So they're a really dangerous team, even though the standings might not say so. It's going to be another difficult game for the Galaxy. And I'm actually going to be surprised who is going to start this game. I didn't mention it in the previous one, but we might see Joveljic start just because it's a midweek game. But we'll see. We'll see how the depth works, and we'll see if Delgado's back and whatnot. But it's going to be another difficult game, I believe.
That's actually a good point. I think Joveljic should start the midweek game. I mean, Chicharito's getting older, and he needs rest. He's been playing consecutively game after game, week after week, and he had that knock this past Sunday against New England. I mean, I think he embellished it a little bit, but he was limping off the field. It's never good to see a player limp off the field, and it seemed like it was a bit of a collision on his knee. So I think it would be very prudent, very cautious of Greg Vanney to start Dejan, right? And also, we're big fans of Dejan, so come on, start the kid, right? Sprinkles, right? So I think the consensus here might be that the Galaxy maybe squeaks out a point, potentially maybe gets a result at best. Okay. So,
but it is a home game. But I want to be optimistic. But
it is a home game. So I'd say a draw, maybe on a good day. Joveljic shows up big. Puig shows up big. There's a connection there between the two, and the Galaxy gets 3 points. At the best, I see the Galaxy maybe narrowly winning this 2-1, winning this game by 1 goal at best. But yeah, we then move on to the Galaxy's 3rd game out of 8, which is Nashville. This is a bit of a wild card here, because this one's much harder to predict than Toronto and SKC. It's not so clear cut because they have had a bit of a roller coaster ride of a season, like I said earlier. It hasn't changed much in the summer. They've just been consistently up and down, right? And they are still very much a heavy contender in the playoff race, just like the Galaxy. They're still vying for a playoff spot. I believe they're still in there. They're a spot above us, if I'm not mistaken. They've been hot as much as they've been cold. Tale as old as time, just like the Galaxy. But they've been lingering in the middle of the table, just like the Galaxy. So this is a toss-up for me, guys. I don't know. I want to get your take on this. It's a toss-up for me. Their record since the start of the summer is, it's not very good. It's just like the Galaxy. They played 13 games. Out of those 13, they've won 4. They tied 5, and they've lost 4. I mean, talk about just a team that is mediocre, right? They're not great. They're not bad. Let's break it down. Let's hear it. How does the Galaxy beat Nashville? How do we stack up against Nashville?
I guess I'll start. Well, the stats are there, right? Nashville is kind of a funny team because their stadium didn't open until about mid-season, so I had all these away games and they were getting good results. But then their stadium opened and they're starting to drop points at home, which is kind of weird. It's a new stadium, so I don't know what to make of this Nashville team. We've played them once in LA or in Carson, right? So it's really tough. The last time we played them, they pretty much parked the bus, and the Galaxy only got 1 goal that game, and that was enough to win. So it's their star player, Hani Mukhtar, or bust. And the only thing that I will say is going against us, the Galaxy have only won 4 of their 12 away games, which is definitely not good. And actually, previously to this New England game, they're on a 4-game losing streak on the road. and the game before that they tied. So technically winless in their last 5 before this New England game. So I think best case scenario would be a draw. But then again, this Nashville team is very streaky as well. So it's going to be another tough game to decide.
Streaky's a good way to put that, because I don't know, just it's such an even match for me. It's hard to tell.
Yeah.
I think that what edges out the Galaxy here is that the fact that Nashville has home team advantage, and as we've seen, they're filling out their stadium consistently every week. You know that the Galaxy is going to bring a lot of fans to town. I don't know, Casey, how do we make sense of this?
Well, we're stacked up against a pretty scary Nashville team. Handy Mukhtar, as Christian mentioned, CJ Sapong, Teal Bunbury, who always likes to score against the Galaxy, Leal, Alex Mouille, who knows how he'll be playing after that stomp on the head after the weekend, and also against one of the best back lines in MLS, I think. Walker Zimmerman is a center back, Dave Romney in the mix as well. So it'll be interesting to see how our strikers and attacking pieces perform against such a dominant back line.
Yeah. Listen, I'm going to be optimistic here. I think the Galaxy could surprise Nashville here. I think if there is one road game for the Galaxy where the Galaxy can show up and put an axe to the head, I think it's this game. I think the Galaxy. This is all of the points you made, Casey. The back line, I agree. Galaxy's going to have a tough time breaking that down, but we have that X factor now, right? We saw what Breach can do. We saw him do it against New England, breaking that pass, weaving it right through. Basically,
such a beautiful ball.
Such a beautiful ball.
Such a beautiful ball.
It really was.
It was mouth-watering.
I think if we get to see a little bit more of that, this Nashville game, break down their defense, and this is going to be a big game for the midfield as well, because like you guys said, those key pieces. Mukhtar is, to be honest, one of my favorite players in the league.
He's my favorite player in the league, yeah.
The guy is phenomenal. He's just killing it. He's up there with Druisi, he's up there with Carles Gil. These guys are just a pleasure to watch, so watch out for him. He's going to have a meal of the back line if the back line's not up for their game. But I feel like the Galaxy can get a point on the road here, at the very least a point, I think.
I agree.
Yeah. So going from Nashville now, we go into Vancouver, which is going to be another quick fire game. Vancouver, we recently just beat 5-2. I believe this game's on the road in Vancouver, so it's not exactly a long road trip. They're up here, still in Cascadia, right? So it's not a long trip, but it is still a bit of a road trip for the Galaxy. How do we stack up against Vancouver here?
Well, I think Vanni Sartini's been able to rally this team to some results, not the most glamorous Vancouver team we've ever seen. And they may be without Cavallini through the rest of this season due to that pretty nasty head stomp on Alex Mouille over the weekend.
Huge loss.
So that, there goes their DP and major attacking piece. In their last, 5 home games, they've only won 2 of them.
Wow.
So it'll be interesting to see how we play against them in Cascadia.
They lost against the Galaxy in mid-August. That was the 5-2 loss. They beat Colorado. Then again, who hasn't beat Colorado, right? They just got dumped 6-0 against Philadelphia this past weekend. They tied against Salt Lake, another competitor in the Western Conference, and then they lost 3-0 this past weekend against Nashville. So they're kind of coming into this limping. That's a home loss for Vancouver against Nashville, 3-0. What do you think, Christian?
This is one that the Galaxy are. I'm going to go ahead and say that this is going to be the must win. Nashville is also fighting for a playoff spot, which you can argue that might be a must win as well. But Vancouver is an inferior team. They're below Nashville, so I think that this is a game that they really need to win. And They've already beat them once. Of course, it was at our home, but this time it's in theirs. And like Casey said, they've only won 2 of the last 5 at home. So this is a game that the Galaxy are going to need to win. But it is a midweek game where things happen. And yeah, I think that this is going to be the game that the Galaxy are going to need to win.
And before Casey mentioned it, I wasn't aware that Cavallini might be out. But if Cavallini truly is out for Vancouver, that to me, I will switch my opinion that Nashville is probably the easiest road game for the Galaxy.
Vancouver
would then be the easiest road game for the Galaxy because Cavallini's like what, their top goal scorer, top assist leader, something like that.
Yeah.
He's their guy, their go-to guy. You know, he's out. Vancouver's limping right now. They've lost recently against this past weekend against Nashville 3-0. I think the Galaxy can take it to them.
I agree. This is why I say this is going to be the game that's going to be the must win for me at least.
Yeah. Okay, so far we have, if we're keeping tally of points, we have a possible 1 point against Kansas City, and we have a possible 3 points on the road against Vancouver. Right, that puts us at 4 points so far with 4 games left.
Yes.
The next game would be Colorado at home. I'm going to just say it right here. This is going to be, out of all of these 8 games, this is going to be the easiest game for the Galaxy. At home against Colorado, a team that has frankly been extremely poor all season. They are near the bottom of the table, if I'm not mistaken.
Mm-hmm.
They're 11th place in the Western Conference. They're still kind of vying for a playoff spot. I just don't see how they can beat the Galaxy at home. I don't know. What do you think, Casey? How do we stack up against Colorado at home?
Well, we haven't beat them in 5 games. And, the last time out, I think the altitude got to us a little bit. You do have Jossie Zardes, who is an alum, who might want to put up a pretty solid performance against his former team. You also have Kai Kamara, who traditionally likes to score against the Galaxy. But their woes continue. They have their own problems, and I think we'll be able to squeak out a win at home against Colorado. No problem.
I think so too. I think that's 3 for the Galaxy. What do you think, Christian?
I think that this is going to be a win, but I'm definitely not guaranteeing it. I've seen San Jose come into our home and beat us, and Houston at the time. Both of those teams were near the bottom, so I won't guarantee it, but this is definitely a favorable matchup for the Galaxy. And for some reason, Michael Barrios, for whatever reason, whenever he plays the Galaxy, he runs around like a madman, and every other game I see he just doesn't do anything, but except for the Galaxy. So watch out for Michael Barrios. But I mean, this is going to be a game that the Galaxy need to win. I think that's their second to last home game, so it's not a lot of home games left. So
yeah. It's the Kansas City, Colorado, Salt Lake. 3 home games,
and that's it.
Galaxy. That's it.
8 games left and 5 on the road. So
5 on the road. Michael Barrios, dude, wasn't he with Dallas before?
Yes, yeah.
Pain in the ass for us as well back when he was with Dallas.
Exactly. I don't know what it is. He gets up for the Galaxy.
There's just some of these players, man. Some of these players are just always pain in the ass for the Galaxy. We're gonna have to make a list of these guys someday, dude. But so 3 points on top of the 4 that we had already talked about. That puts us at what, 7 points for the Galaxy?
7 out of the predicted 9.
7 out of the predicted 9, right? So then we go into Saturday, September 24th against San Jose in San Jose. This is going to be the 3rd to last game. I'm going to just say it flat out. I think this is a loss for the LA Galaxy. San Jose is one of those teams that, I mean, Casey, you probably know this off the top of your head. When was the last time the Galaxy beat San Jose in San Jose?
That is a good question. I'm going to look that right now. I don't think
we feel like it's been a very long time.
You know what? I think they actually beat. Was it last year when Chicharito scored there? They might have beat them last year actually in San Jose.
No, I think you're right. But we haven't beat them the last away game, which was in June of 21.
That's the last
21. Yeah.
time. Wow. Okay. So it hasn't been that long.
No, it hasn't.
It's going to be an interesting matchup because San Jose is I don't want to say they're getting hot right now, but I mean we did see them beat LAFC recently at home.
Surprise.
And it's a bit of a surprise. I mean, most people would have just bet LAFC scoring 8 goals on San Jose, right? But it's the Cali Classico, guys. These games are so unpredictable. It's an old rivalry game. San Jose sometimes playing like dog poo. They'll play up against the Galaxy. They'll play their best game of the year because they just hate the Galaxy that bad, and I don't know. It's a toss-up for me. Do you guys see the Galaxy possibly winning in San Jose?
I think this is another W for San Jose, unfortunately. They, like you said, Chris, they always seem to show up against the Galaxy in these Classico matches in San Jose.
Yeah.
And, I'd be surprised if we came away with the win, possibly a draw.
Yeah. They have one of the hottest strikers in the league, surprisingly, right? Jeremy Ebobisse plays for San Jose.
Yep.
Young guy, 25. He used to play at Portland. Pretty good for Portland from what I remember.
I think he's one of the best in the league. Yeah.
He's one of the best in the league. I mean, he's not what you would call extremely dynamic, but he's a great athlete and he likes to put the ball in the back of the net. He scores the easy ones that he's supposed to do. 14 goals so far this season. I think he's hungry for more. I think he's really hungry for that golden boot. He still has a chance. I see this being a really tough game for the Galaxy. We rarely see ties with these teams,
Yeah.
Rarely see ties with these teams. So it's going to be one or the other. I think the Galaxy possibly comes home from this road trip with no points.
Yeah, it's tough to say. It's crazy to think that Jeremy Ebobisse has more goals than Chicharito. That's pretty wild.
Yeah.
But like you said, it's gonna be a tough game, and I'm sure somewhere around like the 60th minute, Cade Cowell will sub in and he'll score. So something like that.
Oh my goodness! I mean, dude, he's like they're using as a super sub. That kid is something special. He's like 16, 17 years old or something like that. And
I'm not sure of his age, but I just know he's pretty good.
That kid's an athlete. So 7 points so far. It's not getting any easier because the last 2 games are the LA Galaxy at home against Salt Lake. Salt Lake is a top competitor for this in the Western Conference right now. They are just a couple of points away from being in the middle of that playoff table, right? They're in 6th place right now, 1 spot above the Galaxy. But they got Severino back sometime later in the season, and I think he's been pretty good for them. Offensively, they've been kind of lackluster. But I don't know, a tough game for the Galaxy. How do you guys see them stacking up?
Well, it is a home game, right? It's a home game. It's going to be the last home game, so I expect a lot of fans to be there. It's going to be noisy, so that's definitely in our favor. One thing about Real Salt Lake, when it's always Real Salt Lake, and then obviously Houston is next, but always those teams. It's always those teams that just ruin the season. Albert Rusnak, he's not there anymore. They have Damir Krylak. It's just, these random players. I think it was Anderson Julio. I want to say he got a game-winning goal in like stoppage time, not last year, a couple years ago. Just ruined the season. Like something about this Real Salt Lake team. They're just sneaky. I don't know what it is.
Real Salt Lake historically has just been a major thorn in our side. I mean, going back to the 2009 MLS Cup final, I remember being nearly in tears in the stands after that penalty kick shootout, and it's just been an unpleasurable experience ever since. And like you said, they have Savarino, they have guys like Justin Miram, Chang, Ruiz, and guys that put up pretty solid numbers, and I mean they always seem to get result against us. We're 2-1-2 against them in the last 5 matches. It's a pretty even scope. Looking at it objectively, And I think it's just going to come down to, again, closing out games and getting an early lead and being able to navigate the attack appropriately.
Now, I think that the silver lining for the Galaxy's chances against Salt Lake is that if you're looking at Salt Lake at the start of the summer, right, which is kind of what we're focusing on right now, the summer, because that's when teams kind of enter their final form, their best form of the season, right? Salt Lake's only won 2 games all summer long since June, right? When the summer started, they tied against Columbus, lost against Minnesota, tied against Colorado, lost against Atlanta. They beat Sporting Kansas City in July, back when Kansas City, everyone was beating Kansas City, right? They lost against Dallas, tied against San Jose, lost against LAFC, and then they beat the Sounders 2-1. Only 2 wins in the entire summer against SKC and against Seattle. So we can see that as silver lining for the Galaxy, right? Because Salt Lake has kind of slumped a little bit in the summer. They were up towards the top of the table, and then they started to slowly drop. Bunch of ties in there, a couple of losses, but they've been slowly kind of teetering down. I think the Galaxy gets a point at home here against Salt Lake, which would put us at 8 points out of the 11 that we need. I don't know, would you guys think that's fair to say that the Galaxy might squeeze out a point against Salt Lake?
I think that's fair.
So we're at 8. And that is game number 7, which leaves us with only 1 game left. That, of course, is against the Houston Dynamo on decision day. That is Sunday, the 9th of October in Houston.
Houston on decision day again.
What's a worse duo than that?
That's just
Houston
guys, like,
decision day.
Honestly, just a huge monkey on our back. And the last time this happened, they took us down with us. It was the same story. They were bottom of the West.
Yeah.
They weren't going to make the playoffs, and yet they irked out a win and took us down a couple notches to squeeze us out of the playoffs. And I think there's going to be a lot of dogma around this game, and it's going to be a test of the players' mentality, provided the points tally come decision day. But it's really just going to show a lot of this team's resilience and mentality, and again, ability to just close out games and close out the season.
Yeah. What do you think, Christian?
I don't think there's any way we win this game, if I'm being completely honest with you. Now, and I didn't get my last result, actually, the Real Salt Lake. I will say I do think they're going to win that game. Just FYI. That puts my total at 10, but
Okay.
They close out the season losing in Houston. Like I said, it just doesn't go well. Decision day in Houston.
So even with the best projection, that still leaves us a point shy of that 48, because I would put us at 10.
That's correct. Yes.
Yeah, 10 or 7.
Yeah.
Or 8 if we tie, right?
Yeah.
Listen, Houston is such a difficult. It's like a mental thing, right? Because we've done it, I think, twice now where we have fallen short on decision day against Houston.
It was against Houston last year, and then Minnesota the year before that.
It's like a mental thing. And listen, Houston has been a poor team, especially in the summer, right? We're focusing on the summer. Since the start of the summer, Houston has only won 2 games. One against Chicago, which, wow, big news. Everyone's beating Chicago, right? And then another win on July 17th against San Jose. Big whoop. You just beat down San Jose 2-1. But every other game has been loss, tie, loss. We're talking about a team that is poor, but that didn't matter last season. Like Casey said, they weren't qualifying for the playoffs. They weren't going to make it. They took us down with them anyway. They played super hard, and they made it impossible for us to qualify. So That's a tough game for me. I think this Galaxy team is not mentally strong enough to overcome that hurdle. And I think they're going to psych themselves out going into this Houston game. And I think Houston's going to play off of that. They're going to recognize that, hey, listen, we did this to the Galaxy last season. they're trolls. They're gonna do it. I think they're gonna do it. They're gonna play their best damn game of the season. You take that to the bank. You know damn well Houston's gonna play their best game of the season on decision day against the Galaxy, even though they'll be long mathematically eliminated from playoff contention by then. I don't know. I think the Galaxy finishes this with 8 points. Worst case scenario, best case scenario, 10 points. Failing to qualify for the playoffs. I don't know, guys.
Yeah, I mean it's tough. It is tough, but it's kind of ironic you said that they don't do good in the summer. Houston, you would think they have an advantage. They live there. It's all hot. So yeah, I guess not.
I've been to Houston in the summer, dude. You just get out of the airport, those gates open, and just hits you. You start sweating immediately.
It's all humid.
Game.
Yeah, no. Yeah.
Tough game. Casey, what do you think, man? Best case scenario for the Galaxy. You already broke it down for us. You showed us the number. You showed us the mathematical equation. The Galaxy's failing to make playoffs this year. Is that right?
I think I don't see it happening. I think it's, seeing the way this team has dropped points against opponents that seemed like a guaranteed win. We've had quite a few trap games bite us in the butt this season. And I think with the slate of, 8 games we have till the end of the regular season, we're going to be surprised by a couple of those results. Some of them may be in our favor, but others definitely not. And I want to be as optimistic as I can, but the numbers really aren't lying to me here. And I think we're going to fall short.
Yeah. Christian, what do you think, man?
I'd agree. I know we didn't agree on the last fixture, but I would agree. I think that the Galaxy falls short. And let's just say best case scenario. I mean, we broke down the games, right? Best case scenario, let's just say they do sneak in, right? They sneak in, they'd have to go, let's just say Austin finishes second, right? We'd have to go into Austin again, a team that we've beaten twice, right? But I just don't see it happening. We'd have to go into Austin again and play them in their first playoff game. It would just be tough. That'd be best case scenario.
And Austin is getting hot right now.
So hot.
They're getting so hot. Driussi is the best player in the league. I think he's leading the Golden Boot race. 19 goals and like just as many assists. It's crazy, right? They have a crazy fan base. They're like hungry. They're excited for playoffs. I don't know. I frankly, I've talked about this before and I've said it. I almost kind of want, part of me, the diehard Galaxy fan in me wants the Galaxy to make playoffs every year, right? But the other part of me that's like, I can detach my fandom a little bit. I say, you know what? I would much rather the Galaxy not limp into the playoffs. Because what's the point of limping into the playoffs only to get bounced out in the first round?
Yeah.
There's no pleasure for me in that. I would much rather the Galaxy not make it. That puts a whole lot of pressure on that front office. Hey, listen, you guys failed to make the playoffs again, even though you almost built the team up from the ground up again. You got the players you wanted and you failed again. That's going to put a lot of pressure in the front office. I don't know, guys. It sucks to say. We hate to be the bearer of bad news, but listen, the stats don't lie. The numbers don't lie. It's not a guarantee. It's not set in stone, but that's just kind of where the numbers are pointing us in that direction, so unfortunate. I would love to hear what all of you guys out there have to say about it. But guys, is there anything else that we need to talk about? Anything else that we need to throw in there to the fire?
I think we covered it.
Yeah, we pretty much covered the breakdown of the upcoming schedule. One thing I did want to add really quick.
Sure.
Listen, I've been the biggest backer of Douglas Costa this whole time. Okay.
Who?
I've been of Douglas. Exactly. Right.
There's a player on our team named Douglas Costa.
Exactly. Right. I've been the biggest backer. I've been telling everybody, look, give him some time. Chicharito had a bad first year. I am very, very close to hopping off of that because, I mean, he didn't even play last game. We have a third DP, didn't get subbed in. Just think about it for a second. We have Efrain Alvarez subbed in over Douglas Costa.
Oh my God, and he was so useless in the final third.
that person is getting subbed in over our designated player. It's I had to throw that in there before. I know we covered everything else, but man, we have a third DP just collecting money.
And we have another DP that plays and starts and is invisible, right? Kevin Cabral.
It's funny. Greg said it. You mentioned it last week at the it was the season ticket member event at the aquarium, and he mentioned, he kind of threw a little joke in why Kevin Cabral plays. He has this role, right? And I was raising my hand. I wanted to ask, so I was there. I wanted to ask about Douglas Costa and what role he was going to play, and we didn't even see him last game. So I tried to get my question asked, but it didn't have it. So
no, they only take questions from easy takes, man.
Yeah.
If you look friendly enough, you're gonna ask them a question about Ted Lasso.
Yeah.
Well, that's good, man. Hey, listen, it was a pleasure. It's kind of heartbreaking to talk about this because yet again, another season that just feels completely lost for the Galaxy. Galaxy fans are like up to here with the excuses, the failures. It's been a roller coaster season. Sucks to say. Listen, it's right there on the shirt, right?
And I just want to say this, right? There's been some back and forth on the subreddit about where the blame lies, right? Whether it's Chris Klein or whether it's AEG, you have to take a look at how a business operates. The president puts his stamp on approval on signings. He puts his stamp of approval on the technical aspects, the scouting program, everything from the top down. AEG just writes the checks.
Yeah.
The decisions come down to the ownership and the president and the management team. And as far as I'm concerned, and a lot of other fans are concerned, it's been a long time coming and there needs to be some change.
Yeah. It's the day-to-day stuff, right? AEG's not involved in the day-to-day stuff.
No.
Yeah. They just show up, board meeting maybe at the end of the season. They look at the numbers. Yeah, you guys sold a lot. Yeah, there's a lot of ticket sales. You guys did good. Good job. Great season, guys,
and all you optimistic Galaxy fans out there that are hoping the Galaxy make the playoffs, unfortunately, that won't cause any change inside the front office.
I think so.
Right?
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah,
I know there's some fans out there that's like, oh, best case scenario, right? We sneak in, like RSL last year, they snuck in and had some upsets. But if that happens, there will be no change in the front office. So
yeah, that's the truth.
Throwing that out there.
That's the truth. But listen, guys, it was great having you on. Casey, as always, my co-host, always great having. We missed Matt Granger. He's on a little bit of a vacation. He earned it, but that's great. Matt, we'll see you hopefully around next week. It was great having our guest tonight. Christian, why don't you go ahead and tell people where they can find your content, because he does put out Galaxy content as well as some other pretty good, interesting content. Where can they find your stuff, man?
Yeah, you can always find it on Spotify, Apple Podcasts. Thinking about uploading to YouTube as well. I just had to do some editing and hopefully I get some face cam action as well. It's called Whoa Christian's Galaxy Podcast. Everybody calls me Whoa because just like you mentioned in the beginning, there's a lot of Chris's, and in high school there's way too many Chris's. So my Chris doesn't have an H. So I guess WOH is just without H. So everybody just calls me Whoa. So that's what it is.
There it is.
Yeah.
Right
too many
on.
Chris's around.
Too many Christians. So give Christian a follow. That's Whoa Christian. He's on socials, Instagram, right? All that good stuff.
Instagram, Twitter. Like I said, should be a new episode out. If this comes out Tuesday, should have a new episode out actually when you guys listen. So
awesome, brother. It's good supporting your stuff. It's good that other people, like you said, putting out Galaxy content. There's never enough of it.
Exactly.
So we appreciate that. And it's great having you on. So from us, my special guest, my co-host here at the Galaxy Guy podcast, we want to thank you guys. We appreciate each and every one of you. And we hope that you have a great week. Despite the bad news we just laid on you, we hope that you have a great week. And no matter what, Galaxy till the end. We'll see you guys. Bye-bye.